In order to understand our government today, we have to learn a little bit about where it came from, and that involves just a little bit of history. Many ideas that are used in the creating of American democracy came from an English philosopher called John Locke. Locke believed in natural law, that there are laws in nature that must be followed, and that all human beings had the right to things such as life, liberty, and property. The purpose of government was to make sure that these rights were protected. He also believed that government was created by the people. If people did not create the government, then none would exist. No one has the right to govern over you unless you consent to this. This is known as popular sovereignty. People were generally reasonable, but they were also looking out for their own self-interests, and weaker people would have to join forces to protect their natural rights, hence government. Locke felt that if the government that was in place was being oppressive, the citizens had a right to replace that government in favor of one that would protect their natural rights. This generally means revolution. These ideas were instrumental in bringing about the American and French revolutions. Now, these ideas may seem pretty basic to us today, but they didn't exist before this time. This time period was called the Enlightenment. This was an intellectual movement that was based on the use of science, logic, and reason. The elite members of society made up the followers of this movement, which sought to lead the world in a better direction and away from superstition and tyranny. Enlightenment thinkers wrote much about philosophy and government, and these ideas later influenced the creation of the U.S. government. Prior to this movement, almost every single country was ruled by a king, and that king had total and absolute power, no power to the people. They felt like the king's power came from a divine right to rule. So these ideas of power coming from the people were completely revolutionary, and that's why this time period is so important. It creates a foundation for everything we see today. European colonists brought from England 3 basic concepts of government that came about during the Enlightenment. These included ordered government, limited government, and representative government. Ordered government is just a form of government with orderly regulations between all parts of the government and state. Basically, there's rules and it's organized. The colonists knew there was a need for order within their system, and this would define the relationship between the people and establish rules to help people get along. They created local government, which still exists today in the form of town meetings and local county official positions. A government with limits that is not all-powerful was another key concept. The colonists understood that there needed to be limits placed on the powers held by the government, unlike the unlimited power of the king. This was to protect citizens from having their rights unjustly taken away. A form of government where officials are elected to carry out the wishes of the voters is called representative government. People have a voice and vote in what the government will and will not do, but the colonists felt it was important for qualified voters to have a say in the decisions made by the government and to elect officials who would make those decisions. In other words, the leaders in government will represent the people. 3 major English documents set the framework for these principles that we used in the American system of government: the Magna Carta, the Petition of Right, and the English Bill of Rights. Magna Carta means Great Charter in Latin. It's one of the most important documents of all time and was made way back in 1215 AD. It originated out of a dispute between the Pope, King John, and the nobility of England regarding the powers of the king. The Magna Carta introduced the idea of limited government in England by limiting the power of the king. Before this document, the king had no limits to his power. That's why this is so important. The Petition of Right was created in 1628 AD. This document was designed to further limit the powers of the king. The English Parliament stated in this document that the king could not imprison people without cause and could not declare martial law during peacetime. A third document was the English Bill of Rights. This document guaranteed further rights to the citizens, including the right to speak freely and the right to petition the monarch. Both of these ideas are used in the First Amendment in our own Bill of Rights here in the United States.